Recap. Renegade Immortal Chapter 51. Chapter BAP. The moment the challenge was spoken, the air itself seemed to tighten. Without warning, his figure flickered, and in the next instant he stood upon the stage. Zhou Peng. His robes fluttered lightly, yet his presence pressed down like a mountain. His gaze swept across the Hengyu sect disciples below, filled with unrestrained arrogance, as though he stood above them all. His lips curled. "All of you Hengyu sect inner disciples." He paused, letting the weight of his voice sink into every ear. "Come at once. I, Zhou Peng, will take you all on." The words crashed down like thunder. An uproar instantly erupted among the Hengyu sect disciples. Shock, anger, disbelief. Emotions surged like waves colliding in a storm. Even the elders of the Hengyu sect could not maintain calm expressions, their brows furrowed deeply, their hearts heavy. Yet, on the side of the Xuandao sect, not a single person spoke. No one objected. No one questioned. Instead, their eyes revealed only one thing. Respect, it was clear. This Zhou Peng held no ordinary status within the Xuandao sect. At that moment, Elder Ouyang stepped forward slightly. He gave a light cough, his voice cutting through the noise. "Friend Huang Long," he said calmly, "this is Zhou Peng, our Xuandao sect's head disciple." He paused, then added with deliberate emphasis, "Let this one match decide everything." His gaze sharpened. "If one of your Hengyu sect disciples can last 10 seconds, then the Hengyu sect wins." Those words struck like a blade. 10 seconds. Not victory, not defeat, just survival. Jiang Kuang's eyes suddenly lit up. Without hesitation, his body surged forward. With a swift motion, he landed heavily upon the stage, his presence firm and unyielding. He stared straight at Zhou Peng, his voice filled with suppressed fury. "Such arrogance from a mere youth! I'll test you myself!" Zhou Peng looked at him and laughed, not loudly, not wildly, but with complete disdain. "You?" His eyes narrowed slightly as if seeing through flesh and bone. "You appear to be at the 6th layer of qi condensation." A faint, cold light flickered in his gaze. "But you're hiding your strength." His voice dropped, sharp as a blade. "You're actually at the 8th layer." A pause. "You are not strong enough." Before Jiang Kuang could even react, Zhou Peng's right hand moved, a simple wave. Yet within that motion lay terrifying force. A black shadow burst forth from his sleeve, a snake. But in the blink of an eye it expanded, its body twisting violently as it grew larger and larger until it became a massive python. Its head loomed overhead, its eyes cold, merciless. It stared directly at Jiang Kuang, who now stood frozen in place, fear gripping his heart. Then the python opened its mouth and inhaled. What followed was no ordinary suction. It was as if the very space around Jiang Kuang collapsed inward. A strange force erupted, invisible yet overwhelming, and it targeted only him. No one else felt it. No one else was affected. Jiang Kuang's body trembled violently. He tried to resist, tried to circulate his spiritual energy, tried to form a technique, but it was useless. Before he could even begin, his body was already torn from its place. Like a kite with its string cut, he was dragged helplessly toward the python. Zhou Peng sneered. His right hand lifted casually, and in the next moment it clamped around Jiang Kuang's neck. Effortless. Absolute. "You should go back." Zhou Peng's voice was cold, indifferent. "And train for a few dozen more years before coming to challenge me." Then he threw him. Jiang Kuang's body shot through the air like a broken arrow. A purple-clothed disciple rushed forward to catch him. But the force was far beyond expectation. The moment he caught Jiang Kuang, his own body was pushed backward uncontrollably. The two of them slid across the ground, dragging long streaks behind them, until after a long distance they finally came to a halt. Silence followed. Jiang Kuang lay there, his face pale as death, his eyes closed, his body trembling uncontrollably. And on his neck there was a black handprint, clear, terrifying, as if an invisible hand still gripped his throat. The disciple who caught him stared in horror. He said nothing. He couldn't. On the high platform, Huang Long's heart sank. Bitter, utterly bitter. The strength of the Xuandao sect's head disciple was simply too terrifying. From what he had just witnessed, Zhou Peng was at least at the 10th layer of qi condensation, perhaps even higher. There was no doubt. He must be concealing his true cultivation with some kind of talisman, which meant his true strength remained unknown. Huang Long slowly turned his gaze toward the surrounding inner disciples. His heart grew heavier. Even their own head disciple, who stood among the core formation elders, was only at the 10th layer. If he stepped forward, his chances of victory were slim. And if he lost, then the Hengyo sect would suffer complete defeat. Huang Long let out a bitter smile. Fine. His voice was low, filled with resignation. It seems my Hengyo sect has no hope. He paused briefly, then continued. Quickly, inform the two ancestors of what old man Ouyang said. Let them decide. If what he says is true, his eyes dimmed, then there is no hope of keeping Hengyo Peak. Meanwhile, on the stage, Zhou Peng stood tall, his robes swaying lightly. He looked down upon the crowd, his expression arrogant and cold. Who's next? He asked. The question echoed, but no one answered. The Hengyo sect disciples were stunned into silence. One by one, they lowered their heads, avoiding his gaze. Not a single person dared to step forward. Zhou Peng sneered inwardly. Disdain filled his heart. Yet, as his gaze swept across the crowd, he suddenly paused. His eyes narrowed. There, among the many bowed heads, stood a single figure, a disciple of the 3rd layer, unshaken, unafraid, Wang Lin. His expression was calm, his gaze steady. He met Zhou Peng's eyes without the slightest ripple. Zhou Peng stared at him. A cold light flickered within his pupils. What? His voice sharpened. Do you want to come up? The moment those words were spoken, all eyes turned. Every disciple looked toward Wang Lin, and when they realized that Zhou Peng was speaking to him, their expressions became strange. Huang Long let out a quiet sigh. Wang Lin was only at the 3rd layer. Ordinarily, he would be completely unnoticed among the disciples, but now, though his cultivation was low, his courage was undeniable. Zhou Peng saw that Wang Lin did not respond. He sneered again, his voice rising. Out of the 4 battles, there is still one left. He scanned the crowd mockingly. The Hengyo sect is such a large sect, yet not a single person dares to step forward. His eyes were filled with contempt. I am very disappointed. Do none of your inner disciples have the courage to fight? At that moment, Elder Shu, standing beside Huang Long, spoke calmly. Sorry, junior brother Sun. Then he turned his gaze toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin, you go. Sun Dazhu was stunned. For a brief moment he did not react, but then realization struck him like lightning. His face darkened instantly. Anger surged. Dao Shu, his voice rose sharply, although you are my senior brother, you cannot disgrace me like this. He stepped forward, his expression filled with fury. My disciple is only at the 3rd layer. Letting him go up will only make me lose face. His eyes burned with accusation. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Their sect's head disciple is too strong. You're all afraid your own disciples will be defeated, shamed, and injured. So you're sending my disciple as a scapegoat. His voice grew heavier with each word. My disciple has always been considered trash within the sect. So even if he loses, you can all use him as an excuse. I refuse to agree to such a disgraceful act. Dao Shu frowned. Sun Daju's words had struck directly at the truth, but to say it so openly, in front of the Xuandao sect, was nothing short of humiliation. Dao Shu let out a cold sneer. His eyes shifted toward Huang Long. A silent exchange passed between them. Huang Long sighed deeply. Junior brother Sun, there is no need to say more. He turned his gaze toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin, go up. Sun Dazhu trembled with anger. He flung his sleeve to the side violently. Then he lifted his head, staring at the sky with a mocking smile. Wang Lin stepped forward. He clasped his hands respectfully. As you command. His voice was calm. Without hesitation, he took a deep breath and walked forward, step by step, onto the stage. The moment he appeared, the Xuandao sect disciples burst into loud jeers. Hengyo sect, have you no shame? Sending trash to face our eldest martial brother? Our eldest martial brother doesn't even need to act. I could kill him with a single thumb. Eldest martial brother, they've already given up. Just send someone else. He's pitiful. Be merciful and send him off without hurting him. Their laughter echoed across the arena. Elder Ouyang looked at Huang Long and the others. A look of disdain appeared on his face. He laughed coldly. Today, I truly understand Huang Long and the Hengyo sect. Huang Long's face sank. Without saying a word, he waved his sleeve and turned to leave. There was no hope in his heart. None. He had already accepted defeat. Sending Wang Lin onto the stage was nothing more than offering fodder to end the final match. Because losing a battle was one thing, but if word spread that no one in the Hengyo sect even dared to fight, that disgrace would be unbearable. and now no one had stepped forward, so he had no choice. Behind him, the elders of the Xianxia sect shook their heads. One by one, they turned and left. Even the inner disciples began to retreat, their footsteps hesitant, their hearts unwilling. No one wanted to remain and witness further humiliation. The stage remained, and upon it stood Wang Lin, alone, facing Zhou Peng, in the heavy silence of a sect on the verge of collapse. The moment Zhou Peng's laughter rang out, it carried the weight of absolute arrogance, sharp, domineering, and filled with utter disdain. "Wang Lin," he sneered, his voice echoing across the arena like a blade scraping stone. "With a single breath I can knock you down, so steady yourself, and don't collapse too quickly." As his words fell, Zhou Peng inhaled deeply. That single breath was not ordinary. It was as if the heavens themselves were being drawn into his lungs. His body became like a bottomless abyss, swallowing air with terrifying force. The surrounding winds twisted violently, and in an instant, the robes of every observing disciple began to whip and flutter wildly, snapping in the air as though they might be torn away at any moment. The sheer pressure of that breath alone was enough to make hearts tremble. And standing before him, Wang Lin, this was his first true battle. To say he felt no nervousness would have been a lie. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from unfamiliarity. Yet beneath that unease, something else stirred. A cold clarity, a quiet determination. He drew in a slow breath, suppressing the turmoil within his chest, and silently gathered all of his strength. Every trace of spiritual power within him surged toward a single point. His attraction technique expanded outward, invisible, yet overwhelming. At the same time, Wang Lin made a swift, decisive move. For the sake of certainty, he reached into his belongings and pulled out a small object, a stink bomb. Without hesitation, his divine sense surged forward, erasing the imprint left behind by Li Shan. In one fluid motion, he flung the object toward Zhou Peng. Then a thunderous explosion shattered the air. Bang! Black smoke erupted violently, swallowing the space between them. Within that thick, choking cloud, a figure was hurled outward like a broken leaf caught in a storm, Zhou Peng. His body slammed heavily against the ground with a dull, resounding impact. When the smoke began to thin, the sight that greeted everyone was beyond belief. Zhou Peng lay sprawled across the arena, his entire body coated in thick, black sludge. His once imposing presence was reduced to something almost absurd, his face frozen in utter confusion, his expression eerily similar to earlier humiliation. Above him, the giant python that had hovered with terrifying might vanished without a trace. Silence fell, not gradually, but all at once. The entire Xianxia sect was stunned. Heads turned instinctively toward the source of the explosion, and then froze. No one spoke, no one moved. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. On the high platform, Huanglong's mind went blank. This. His thoughts spiraled into chaos. A deafening roar filled his ears as though thunder had exploded right beside him, leaving his senses shattered. No, impossible. Since when did Wang Lin become this powerful? His opponent is the head disciple of the Xuan Dao sect. Nearby, Dao Shu rubbed his eyes furiously, as if trying to dispel an illusion. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Brother Zhang, the one who had personally brought Wang Lin into the sect, stood rooted in place, his face filled with disbelief. "This is Junior Brother Wang, the same Wang Lin I keep urging to work harder. He's only at the 3rd layer. How could this happen?" The red-faced elder's jaw hung open. Wang Lin, that boy who tried to enter the sect by committing suicide, that so-called trash. He forgot even to breathe. Another elder Song could only whisper hoarsely, "Incredible." Wang Zuo stood frozen like a statue carved from wax. His thoughts echoed repeatedly within his mind. Wang Lin, trash. He shook his head again and again, refusing to accept reality. His body felt weightless, as though he were drifting inside a dream. This must be an illusion. It has to be. Nearby, the female disciple, surnamed Shu, covered her mouth with trembling fingers. How is this possible? When did Wang Lin become so strong? He's clearly only at the 3rd layer. Sun Dazhu scratched his head vigorously, muttering to himself in confusion. This is fake. It has to be. I must be seeing things. How could there be an illusion in broad daylight? That's my disciple. The girl surnamed Zhou stared at Wang Lin without blinking. Her mind was completely blank. Jiang Kuang had long since regained consciousness. Yet for the sake of pride he had pretended to remain unconscious. But now he could no longer keep up the act. His gaze locked onto Wang Lin, his pupils shrinking violently. Yes, it's him. It must be him. Not far away, the middle-aged man who had once accepted metal from Wang Lin's fourth uncle bit down hard on his tongue. I'm dreaming. This must be a dream. Only Lu Song appeared relatively composed. This was his first time hearing Wang Lin's name. He narrowed his eyes slightly, observing the young man carefully. When did such an expert appear among the inner disciples? If they had someone like this, why didn't the elders send him first? Why send me? Elsewhere, the third elder of the pill house stood in stunned contemplation. Did I make a mistake in my earlier assessment? Could it be that Wang Lin truly possesses exceptional talent? All of the inner disciples remained frozen, their expressions identical, dumbfounded, as if their understanding of the world had just shattered. But the Hengyo sect was not alone in their shock. The people of the Xuandao sect were equally shaken. Elder Ouyang's eyes widened to their limits. Zhou Peng was their hidden trump card, the #1 genius of the Jiao cultivation world. Though publicly known as being at the 12th layer, his true strength had already reached the 13th. And yet, he had lost. Lost in such a bizarre, humiliating manner. If it had been the elders of the Hengyo sect who acted, it might have been acceptable. But this opponent, was someone their enemies had openly labelled as trash, impossible. It must be because Zhou Peng had been careless. Yes, that had to be the reason. The two elders beside him exchanged glances. Their lips parted slightly, but no words came out. The strangeness of the battle had completely stunned them into silence. Liu Feng stared deeply at Wang Lin. A chill ran down his spine. Fortunately, he had not stepped forward earlier. Otherwise, he would have ended up exactly like Zhou Peng. Still, he couldn't understand. Why would someone this strong be called trash within the Hengyo sect? Looking at the reactions of the Hengyu sect members, it didn't seem like an act. Could it really be that Senior Zhou Peng had simply been careless? Yet no matter how he examined Wang Lin, the young man's aura clearly remained at the 3rd layer. The other disciples of the Xuandao sect shared similar thoughts. They all clung stubbornly to the same conclusion. Senior brother Zhou Peng had been careless. There was no way he could have truly been defeated by Wang Lin. Liu Mei, however, her delicate face revealed something entirely different. Her expression flickered subtly, her gaze deepening as she observed Wang Lin. From the very first day, he had already caught her attention, and now, her interest had grown even stronger. Among everyone present, perhaps only Li Shan's shock rivaled the heavens themselves. His body went limp as he collapsed onto the ground, muttering in despair. It's over. Everything is over. I sold him that stink bomb, and he used it on Senior Marshal Brother. Senior Brother lost so quickly, he must already be thinking about how to deal with me. Li Shan, how could you not see it? Wang Lin was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Wang Lin, you're too despicable, too shameless, too sinister. This time, you've really pushed me into a dead end. How can I stay in the Xuandao sect now? Senior Brother will never forgive me. No, I have to think of a way. I need to wash off that black sludge and get rid of that stench. But that sludge, it's my proudest invention. There's no cure, no solution. The only way is to soak in a bath for half a year. And that smell, I created it to steal other people's girlfriends. Even I wouldn't dare touch it. The only way to remove it is to stand in a wind tunnel for an entire month. There's no other way. I'm finished, completely finished. Just then, a groan broke the silence. Zhou Peng stirred. He had been knocked unconscious by the overwhelming stench. His eyes snapped open, filled with fury. Li Shan! He roared. I will never forgive you for this. Li Shan's heart collapsed entirely. Tears streamed down his face as he cried out desperately. Senior Brother, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'll never cheat for profit again. Never again. Zhou Peng's face twisted with rage. Black sludge dripped from his body. A foul, suffocating odour spread with every movement. Yet he didn't care. His body moved like lightning. In a single instant he returned to the stage. His voice exploded with madness. Wang Lin, that didn't count. I wasn't ready, and you attacked early. We will fight again, and this time, you are not allowed to attack before I'm ready. The storm had only just begun.